So now we're going to look at the second topic for social movements, which is types. The study design clearly states the 4 types that we need to focus on. So there's alternative, redemptive, reformative, and revolutionary types of. So the key question when you're trying to classify or categorize a social movement into one of these 4 types is who is the social movement targeting, or what is the social movement attempting to change? So if it's targeting individual people, it's going to be alternative or redemptive. If it's targeting society, it's going to be reformative or revolutionary. If it's seeking limited change, meaning individual or smaller change, then it could be alternative. If it's individual behavior, and if it's society, then it could be reformative. If it's seeking a lot of change, then it could be redemptive or revolutionary. So the theorist who studied the types of movements, his name is David Abberley, and he identified 4 types of movements. Alternative movements aimed at individual people seeking limited change, redemptive aimed at individual people seeking radical change, reformative aimed at society seeking limited change, revolutionary aimed at society seeking. So he basically, the first type is called alternative. It is aimed at individual people, and it's seeking limited change. An example being the veganism movement. So when you think about it this way. The veganism movement is saying, stop eating meat, only eat vegetables and fruits, okay? Fruits and vegetables, that's what they're saying. So they want you to, individual people, change your behavior, your individual behavior, change one thing, that's stop eating animal products. That's an individual behavior targeting individual people. That's alternative. Seth Gontier defined this as encourage individuals to change their own behavior. An example of this is White Ribbon, which is domestic violence. They're saying individual behavior. Don't beat your partner at home. Don't attack your partner, etc. That's an individual behavior. This social movement called the White Ribbon Movement is seeking in social change in individual people, founded by these 2. Who is the movement targeting? The White Ribbon Movement. They're targeting mostly men who engage in domestic violence, who are violent with their women, with their wives, and so they're seeking, change in that. Another example of an alternative movement is the Kick It Out movement, which is saying, kick racism out of sports. Okay, it started by Thierry Henry and a few other people, and they're saying, get rid of racism in sports. So that's an individual behavior, and that's another example is the Wipe Off 5 campaign by the government, and they're seeking individual behavior, which is slow down, stop driving fast.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here, we can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here. At first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
The second type of movement is called redemptive. It's seeking individual people, people to change, so they target individual people. It doesn't target all of society, but they don't want limited change like the alternative. They want complete transformation of your personality. They want you to redeem yourself, so to speak. They want you to become, and complete change, become more of a religious person or a better person, etc. An example is the Tablighi Jamaat. They knock on your door, they say, come to the mosque, brother, become more practicing, become a better person. Similarly with like the Jehovah's Witness, they ask you to come to the church and they ask you to become a better Christian. Seth Gontier defined it as they wish to help people redeem or completely remake. So the example is Tablighi Jamaat. It's a redemptive movement because it's mostly scholars who are trying to, tell people to renew their person. So they're targeting individual people and they're telling them to renew their personality, renew their and another example is the Jehovah's Witness. Another example is Alcoholics Anonymous.
I'm Doug and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Doug.
One of the things I do for a living is count. I count votes. Yays, nays, neutrals, abstaining. And I'm good at it. But the most important count I do has nothing to do with work. It's the number of days since April 4th, 1999. As of this morning, that's 5,185. The bigger that number gets, the more it frightens me, because I know all it takes is one drink to go back to 0. Most people see fear as a weakness. It can be. Sometimes for my job, I have to put fear in other people. I know that's not right, But if I'm honest, like the fourth step asks us to be, I have to be ruthless. Because failure's not an option. The same goes for my sobriety. I have to be ruthless with myself. I have to use my fear. It makes me stronger. Like everyone in this room, I can't control who I am. But I can control the zero. Fuck the zero.
Thanks for sharing. It works if you work it. Who would like to share next?
So Alcoholics Anonymous is a social movement that's targeting individual people, and they want them to completely transform their personality and give up alcohol addiction. So you can't just stop alcohol. It's not individual behavior. It's not alternative. You have to transform your personality because alcohol is an addiction. You have to change your whole lifestyle to get over alcohol addiction. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous is redemptive.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here. We can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
We can see from the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, especially step number 6, it says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So you're asking God to transform your personality. That's an example of why it's redemptive.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here. We can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
The Alcoholics Anonymous hand out pamphlets on the streets. You might see them at train stations. They even have some in Melbourne, so you'll see them at train stations once in a while, handing out pamphlets. Obviously, we don't need them. In Islam, we don't drink alcohol, but other people, they drink alcohol, so they might need help.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here. We can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
They also put signs up at stadiums and things like that.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here. We can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
When you do go, if somebody goes to the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, you'll find that they talk about the 12-step program and also seeking the grace of God, you know, to become more religious. So it's redemptive. You have to transform your personality.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following a huge force that threw her over 6 metres from the impact here. We can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So he started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. Well, let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
So alternative movements and redemptive movements both target individual people. However, alternative movements want individual people to change specific behavior, whereas redemptive movements want them to transform their whole lifestyle. The third category of social movement or type of social movement is reformative. They target society. They don't target individual people, they target society. And they want to change a specific part of society. So the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, they want to change, you know, police brutality and certain laws that protect African Americans from the police. They want certain part of society to change through laws. They don't want all of society to change. That's why it's reformative. Animal rights is another example that's reformative. They don't want all of society to change. They just want more laws to protect animals from being mistreated. Revolutionary social movements, this is the last type. They're the most, they're similar to reformative. They target society. However, they don't want limited change. They don't want a few laws here and there to change. They want all of society to change. They want a complete transformation of society. An example being the Iranian Revolution. So in Iran, in the late 1970s, they had a religious movement which was meant to transform the country from, you know, a country that had a king and it had a parliament and it was like a democracy, and they wanted it to become a more Islamic religious state. So what they did is they got the king was overthrown by Ayatollah Khomeini, and so the Khomeini movement was a revolutionary movement. They wanted to transform the country. Seth Gontier defined it as seek to drastically change the society's fundamentals. So the Khomeini movement, this is photos of Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini's movement was to transform the country of Iran to go from being a democratic country with a king and a parliament to become it was a democratic monarchy, which means it has a king and a parliament like England, but they wanted to become a religious state, and so Ayatollah Khomeini became the leader of Iran, and he was a sheikh as well, so it became an Islamic state. So the difference between reformative and revolutionary. Reformative and revolutionary both seek society. They want changes to happen, not in individual people, but as society as a whole, society at large. Reformative wants small change. They want a few laws to change, a few rights, things like that. Revolutionary want the complete transformation. So just some quotes that you need. Remember, you need quotes for all of them. Alternative, an example, is the Hong Kong movement. They want people to eat, only vegetables on Mondays. So it's called the Green Monday movement. And they want people to only eat vegetables on Mondays. Stop eating meat on Mondays. And that's an alternative movement because it's targeting individual behavior with limited change. Redemptive, Alcoholics Anonymous. You got a quote there from the 12 steps. Reformative, Black Lives Matter. They're targeting, change in racism and laws to protect African Americans. Revolutionary, we have the Iranian Revolution, which is changing it from a democracy to a